Allora,
Innanzitutto voglio ringraziare Silvia di essere qua.
So good morning. First of all, I would like to thank Sylvia to be here and all the students to be here, the guys to be here. This masterclass is included in the European Film Factory program that proposes a catalog of 20 movies of the European film heritage, and also a series of other resources that are linked to these movies. And of course, we invited Silvia with Fellinopolis because in our catalog we have La Strada, so the road. And we saw that Fellini every time wanted to invent new things. But there are some recurrent themes. For example, if we see the last three movies by Fellini, we see some common aspects. For example, the fact of having Giulietta Massina, who is actress in these movies. So actually, a series of the themes that were present, we can say, even though he didn't repeat himself, but they were anyway present. So Silvia is going to talk to us a little bit about Fellini's movie, and he had the privilege to work for Fellini. And then I give you the floor because I know that you prepared some questions for Silvia. So yeah, first of all, I would like to say that maybe the music was a little bit low, but maybe the file is a 5+1. So it's a stereo, so maybe there was an audio problem. I'm really sorry because music was really present in the movie, but I hope that you followed, you managed to follow. So the origin of this movie is really interesting, and I would like to tell you that because sometimes the destiny calls us to have missions, and really, I have been called to that. So I'm not a Fellinian, let me say. I worked for 25 years because now I have been working in the field for 45 years. But for 25 years, I worked with the operators for Lucchino Visconti. So I'm more on the Visconti side than on the Fellini side. So there are different families. So Fellini's family is a little bit closed. I mean, when I mean family, I mean technical family. So people who worked for Fellini didn't meet people who worked for De Sica, for Visconti, for Pasolini. So every director had a family of collaborators. So when I had the chance to do this for Fellini, maybe I said, maybe it's not good that I do that because I'm very well known on the Visconti's side, Lucchino Visconti side. And there was a kind of competition between the two. So there are a lot of books, there are a lot of tales and stories about them. They are enemies, we can say. So that actually instead of even though they were one enemy for the other, actually they were a lot really linked, we can say. So for example, Claudia Cardinale worked on two sides. So on, for example, 8½, and on and another Visconti's movie. So, for example, Visconti wanted Claudia Cardinale with black hair, but Fellini wanted a blonde hair. But then, for example, Claudia Cardinale had to really travel by airplane to go from one set to the other, and every time she had to change her hair. So it was really was a really a kind of competition, as I said. So in 2020, there was a film director, Ferruccio Castronovo, that has always worked with Fellini, because in the past, when films were produced, they produced a kind of parallel movie that was called Special. And this backstage was sent to TV to promote the movie, to invite people to go to the cinema. And we're talking about the 70s, the 80s. But with television, of course, this was not common, but there was anyway the need to have a film director to shoot these other parallel movies. And it was really important for Fellini. Fellini couldn't make a movie without Castronuovo, and it was a little bit superstitious. So he was really linked to Mr. Castronuovo.
Quindi
so Ferruccio had this wonderful material, and they were 1 hour movies, and they were archived in the film library, National Film Library in Rome, with all the non-edited tracks, really a very wonderful material. So I decided to take this material, and I thought, well, I said to Ferruccio, you know, Ferruccio, it's the 100th, Fellini's 100th anniversary, so maybe it's really the time to use this material. And as I was the Visconti collaborator, I wasn't sure to do that. So I sent all this material to Martin Scorsese, because he is really the biggest Fellini's lover. So I said, okay, maybe he could make a film. So we used a series of we had a series of lawyers, and we changed our emails. But he didn't reply, unfortunately, to my emails. So I started to record some interviews, a kind of B plan. Because if I said, if Martin Scorsese wanted to make this movie, I will give him also the interviews. So at the end of my interviews, March 6th of 2020, we entered the pandemic time. So actually Plan B became Plan A. So Martin Scorsese, unfortunately, didn't reply. So I decided to do this movie. And I really wanted this Castronovo's material came to life again, because it was seen on TV only during the 70s. So it was really an exceptional thing. And then everything combined, really Fellini's movie inside Cinecittà. I really grew up in Cinecittà. I was 17 when I started working in cinema movie, and I went to Fellini's set, just we can say like a kind of office girl. So I was there just randomly, and I would never thought to become in my life a film director and to make a movie on Fellini. So I'm really happy, and I really that this movie really shows how movies were in the past. So really Fellini is unique. Today we have different methods. So what you saw, so the train building, the sea creation, of course, now today is everything done digitally. But there you can really see the genius of the set designers. So Dante Ferretti is Scorsese Scorsese is a designer, and he won 5 Oscars. So really incredible. So they were really genius. Fellini had an idea of the script of the set, and he proposed to Fellini, and he said, no, maybe I'm not really convinced. So they decided to remove a wall. Hey, can we add here another wall? Because he said, I really need that little angle, and the little angle became a wall, and then another wall, and then another wall, and then a ceiling. So Dante Ferretti really learned to build an entire set. And of course, as you can imagine, costs were huge. But Fellini's genius is really evident to everybody. Maybe we have some questions from the floor. So somebody you can maybe break the ice. Or maybe you are shy. No, you are not. Okay.
Peut-être tu peux te lever parce qu'on t'entend pas. Juste.
Unfortunately, the interpreter cannot hear the question. Okay. So, was it easy to find fundings for Fellinopolis? Oh, well, the question. I was not funded. I didn't receive money as a funding because Italy, unfortunately, has a production system and funding system that is based on the Ministry of Social funding. That year, that was the 100th anniversary of Fellini, many film directors made movies on Fellini. So unfortunately, they couldn't fund everybody. So I was not funded. So some others had bigger productions, we can say. I'm a film director, and I'm editing director. So I'm independent, and I did everything alone. This is really a private and independent production. So no, I didn't receive funding, but I had a wonderful distribution wide. That is French distribution is one of the most important that there is in France, and it sold it throughout the world. I received an email yesterday that showed me that really showed me how much Fellinopolis earned in New Zealand. So as you can see, it was sold in Australia, in China, really everywhere. Do you have maybe any questions about Fellini's work? So for example, what you saw in Fellinopolis, but also in La Strada, because I know that some of you watched La Strada on European Film Factory. So whatever question it may be, no problem, I can answer. If you want, you can ask it in French.
Ma tu sei di Roma? Ah, brava.
Okay, you are from Rome. Okay.
Vai.
Okay.
Stavi lì in silenzio.
Yeah, you were so quiet. You could say that you were from Rome.
Dai.
Fortunately, the interpreter cannot answer, cannot listen clearly to the question. So, sorry.
Dobbiamo ripetere la domanda perché mi sa che online non sentono bene la tua voce e quindi lei diceva, quindi,
Yes, okay.
come ti chiami?
We are going
Gabriela
to repeat the
dice
question.
che le immagini che vediamo in Fellinopolis chiaramente sono
So
le immagini
Fellinopolis
dietro le quinte,
picture,
sono le
they are
scene
the behind the
concrete,
scenes, we can say,
Fellino
so the making
e
of,
quindi
right?
questa dimensione
So
fuori dalle
this
scene che vediamo
dimension
nei
out
film
of
di
the
Fellini
scenes
dà
from
questa
Fellini's
impressione di
movie give
intimità, di
the sense of
entrare in questo
intimacy,
mondo
really to enter
segreto di
this
Fellini.
secret
Ma questa è
world
stata la
by
capacità
Fellini.
non mia,
Well, yeah,
ma del regista
it,
originale, cioè quindi
it
Ferruccio
was
Castronuovo che ha
Ferruccio
preso queste
Castronovo's
immagini dal
ability
set. Infatti
who took
lui lo
this
dice
picture
nel film,
from
lui
the
si
set.
nascondeva,
In fact,
quindi
he
lui
was
cercava di
hidden
non
a little
dare
bit. He
fastidio
tried not
a
to
Fellini mentre
disturb
lavorava, perché
Fellini
voi
while
dovete
he was
immaginare che
working. You could
un
you
set
you have
dove c'è un
you
regista
if you imagine there is a
o è il
set
regista, ci
with a
sono
film director,
davanti
that film
150
director,
persone che si
and in
muovono,
front of him there
tutti che
are
vanno, che
150
vengono, che
people who
chiedono,
move.
che
They
spostano.
come back and
Quindi
forth. They
Ferruccio
display things.
cercava di
So I mean, Ferruccio
non dar
tried
fastidio alla
not
lavorazione, quindi
to
si
disturb
nascondeva. Il fatto di
all the
nascondersi
activities.
e
So
quindi di andare in
he hid
obiettivo
himself.
con uno
So the
zoom
fact that
iperobiettivo
he
ti fa
used
sentire
Zoom,
vicino, dentro e
um,
invisibile.
he
Però ci tengo a dire
allowed
una
him to
cosa,
be
che qui dentro
closer,
questo film
so
di
to feel this
Fellinopolis
sense of
non c'è
intimacy.
niente della strada.
But in Fellinopolis, you don't have
No,
anything
quello
of
è 8 e
strada of
mezzo.
La Strada.
Si vede l'intervista all'attore.
No, è 8 e mezzo.
So yeah, you
Sì,
see
quella
only
intervista,
8.5.
aspetta, devo chiarire.
Yeah,
Si
maybe I
vede
need to
l'intervista
clarify. Yes,
dell'attore
you
perché
see the
l'attore
actors
stava a
interviewed
Cinecittà
because
per girare un
actors was
altro
in
film e
Cinecittà
allora si sono incontrati e si sono parlati.
to work
Ma
for
La Strada appartiene al
another movie.
periodo di
But La
Fellini.
Strada
Il primo Fellini è
belongs
molto
to the
diverso dal
first
secondo
Fellini time. That is
ed è
very different
molto diverso
from
dal
the second
ultimo
one.
Fellini.
That is
C'è un
again very
momento, dal
different from the
momento in
very last
cui
one.
Fellini
So
è
from
un
one moment to
visionario,
another,
cioè vive
Fellini
e
is
fa un
visionary.
cinema che sembra un sogno,
He
mentre i
makes
primi erano più
a kind of
realistici.
he makes
Quindi lo
movies that seem to
stesso
be
La Strada
dreams. Instead,
è
the
un
first
film
part he
realistico,
made
no? Con una
movies that were
storia
more realistic.
molto
So
comprensibile.
was
Poi
a
dopo ha
story that was
cominciato a
really
prendere
understandable. But
uno
then
stile
he
molto
he
onirico,
started to have a kind of
parlando di
a
pianeta
dream,
degli spiriti, la città
um,
delle
a
donne,
kind of dream style.
la
So, for
voce della
example,
luna,
if you see to The Voice
cioè
of the
tutti
Moon, The City of
film
Women, so a
che
series of
difficili da capire, devo
movies
dire
that
la
are
verità, perché
difficult to
aveva,
understand.
cioè,
I need to
tutti hanno
be
studiato
I need to say
filosofi,
that. So a lot of
psicologi, perché
philosophers,
comunque i suoi
psychologists
film non
really
erano
studied
proprio
them because
lineari
these
con una
movies were
storia
not
ben
really linear
comprensibile al
with a
100%.
plot that was
Però ovviamente,
100%
però
understandable.
la capacità di
But
Fellini è stato sempre
Fellini's
di essere un
capacity
grande visionario.
has always
Nel
been the fact
film
of
La
being
città delle
a
donne
great visionary.
raccontava
In The City of
questo
Women, he really
cambiamento delle donne nella
told
società,
about this
quindi il
change of
femminismo
women in
che in
society,
quel
so
momento
feminism.
stava
That
crescendo.
that time was
Poi su
really
Ginger
growing
e
up.
Fred lui
And
ha
then in Ginger
raccontato
and Fred,
l'avvento della televisione
uh,
e la morte del
he
cinema,
described
ancora prima che accadesse.
the
Quindi,
new era of
insomma, è
TV
stato un visionario, anche
before
se
it
qualcuno
happened.
dice che
So he was really
il suo
visionary,
mondo
even though
magico
some people said
entrava
that
nella
his
sua
magic
professionalità.
word entered his
Forse
professionalism.
perché
Maybe yes,
Fellini era tanto
because
molto
Fellini was
superstizioso, ma molto
very
legato alla
superstitious, as I
magia,
said before.
come l'ho
He was really linked
raccontato.
to magic.
Addirittura c'è qualcuno che
In
dice
fact,
che la sceneggiatura
some
di 8
people
e
said
mezzo
that
sia stata
a set of
scritta in
8.5
trance
was
da Gustav Froll. Sapete chi è
written
Gustav Froll?
in trance by
Gustav Froll,
Gustav
andate a
Froll.
vedere
I
i
don't know
film
if
in
you know,
internet, è stato un
but
sensitivo,
Gustav
uno
Froll
scienziato, un uomo che aveva delle
was
capacità di
medium of
predire
sciences,
il futuro,
clairvoyant. It was
diciamo così. Non era un
he had
mago,
this
era proprio uno
clairvoyant
studioso e sembra che il più
capacity. He
potente della
was
Terra
he was an expert of that, and it seems that very important people, so like Nixon, so state presidents really wanted to talk with Gustav Roll. And Fellini was really linked to Gustav Roll.
Quale ovviamente gli ha dato dei consigli, però sulla
And
sceneggiatura di
of course, Gustav Roll gave him pieces of advices, but
se voi sentite parlare i registi di tutto
but
il mondo,
if you, for example, you listen to various film directors, everybody would see that 8.5 is the movies that was really surprising for them. In fact, Scorsese said that after he watched 8.5, he decided to become a film director. So actually, 8.5 is the most particular movie by Fellini. So he has a very great value. And La Strada is a total different movie. So Fellini really had an evolution, a change. And if you want to understand that, I really suggest you to watch his movie in a chronological order to understand the way he changed. He changed especially when he won an Oscar, and at that time he could do whatever he wanted, because he wasn't interested in the market rule. And I didn't say that. It's his movies that say that. He produced his movies. Then, if you like that, it's okay. Otherwise, it's the same. And maybe this was the secret, the key of his success. But at the end of the day, I think that all his movies were really relevant. Well, yes, maybe there were some movies who were a little bit, we can say, minor movies, but they were all important movies. So, for example, in our catalog, we have La Strada, that is a movie of 1954, and then we have the behind the scenes of some most recent movies, and we have also an interview which Fellini and Anthony Quinn are together, and they talk about La Strada. Yeah, because Fellini really had this ability to make this movie, but nobody could understand anything because there was a script, but the script changed every second. So actually, also the script supervisor didn't understand clearly what they were shooting actually. A movie is produced 3 times. So the first one, you write it. Then when you shoot it, what you wrote changes and it becomes another movie with another language, because the script language is writing. The film language is the shooting. And then there is another part, that is the part of the editing, where everything is fragmented and recomposed, reassembled, and it is another film again. So we say that we shoot a movie 3 times. So once it is written, then it is shooted, and then it is edited. And in Fellini, all of these phases are inverted, and so everybody found difficult to follow his ideas. So in the editing phase, Fellini really invented, and he really put inside what he really wanted to say. So when they saw La Strada completed for the first time, it was really fantastic, because nobody understood at the beginning. So you need to know that the movie is not put in sequence, because maybe you start from the last scene and then you go back and then you go ahead. So the rule is everything starts with the location. So you shoot all the scenes in the same location. So if you don't complete to shoot in a specific location, you don't change this location. So it's really, the location is really important in the sense.
Allora, intanto c'è da dire che questo accadeva tanti anni fa.
So we need to say that it happened a lot of years ago. Funding system is different from the past. In the past, we had producers with their money who believed in the movie, so they read the script, they fell in love with the plot, so they really believed, so that they invested their money with the owners of the cinema rooms, because if you consider that in the past TV was not there, so really a lot of people went to movie theater. So the owners, movie theater owners, invested on that. They give them money to produce film because they believe in that. Producers believed in that. Producers were people who really understood the movie and they decided to fund them. So we can say that the funding of the debut film is the very hardest part, because of course it's easy to finance movies of well-known film directors, but when it comes to have a debut film, nobody knows if it will become a success or not. So the producer really believed in him. I don't remember exactly the name of the movie, but he started with a kind of minor movie. And for example, The White Sheikh was one of his first movie, but then when he won an Oscar, actually there was a kind of paradox, because his movies were so expensive, sorry, that nobody wanted to produce them. But then somebody understood that it was really, this kind of movies were masterpieces. So some producers decided to invest their money. Again, the interpreter cannot hear the question.
Beh, no, non proprio in quel periodo preciso. Ha cominciato, allora, intanto è fantastica la sua vita, perché lui viene da Rimini.
So his life is amazing. He comes from Rimini. Rimini is not Rome, and after war period, and in Italy, this period afterward was really a disaster. Italy was very poor, and he started working for a newspaper that was called Marco Aurelio. There was a satirical newspaper where he creates vignettes, and he met a lot of script writers, and they helped themselves. And Fellini started as a script writer, and then he became a film director. So cinema was a big family. Today it is really a big family, but in the after-war period, not a lot of people made cinema. So everybody helped each other. And this created really strong personalities where like Fellini really made the difference. So he had the chance, he had the ability, and he had the chance to find himself to be at the right place at the right moment. And then he had wonderful, amazing abilities, that's for sure. And how it did that is something that we are still studying. If there is a question that was made online, so about the idea of the family, so people who work together as a family. So some of our participants asked about the relationship between Streller and Zeffirelli, for example. I'm not sure, I cannot say if they were friends or enemies, actually. Yeah, I worked also with Zeffirelli, so I know very well the family. Zeffirelli was started with Visconti. He was a script writer, and it was really wonderful. So he started in the theater. So, well, Fellini, about the theater side, I'm not sure, but like it was more focused on cinema. Rome is a really, we could say, a village, let me say. So I mean, about people who work in the cinema. Today is this different. So at the time it was a kind of elite. So they knew each other. And something amazing that happened in the time was Visconti wrote a script and he showed that to Pasolini. Pasolini handed them to Fellini. So all these characters were not envious, but there was a kind of exchange that brought really the product to a very high level. Because one criticized the other, but in a positive way. And some of them took part in the script writing, but without signing him. So honestly, I need to say that I'm not very expert of theater, so sorry. I'm expert of cinema. So I cannot really say, unfortunately, if there was a kind of friendship with Streller or not. But I can say that they really exchange know-how, we can say. So at the time, know-how was not very common word in Italian, we can say. But they exchanged, their projects. And regarding this family, so the family of technicians, it makes me think to La Strada, so to the road, to this idea of circus that really was really loved by Fellini, because circus was a family who spent time together. So yeah, we say that we make movies, but actually we make circus. Cinema is like a circus. So I worked with a cameraman who started in 1940. When I met him, he was very old, so I worked with his son, so I really met now the fourth generation. So I met all the stage technicians, so all the operators, so from the parents to the children, so an entire generation. As of course, the technology helped a lot, and maybe it's raining. A part of that, you can produce a movie in 4 weeks. Well, instead, Fellini's movie lasts 1 year, so definitely 10, 12 times more than today. So it was cinema was really a big thing in the past, but it was little in the sense of inhabitants of these families. Today it is the opposite. So you have a lot of inhabitants of cinema, we can say, because technology helped us to do things alone. 20 years ago, it couldn't do FELLINOPOLIS alone. So yes, he was really he was really fond of circus. In fact, he produced a movie on circus because it was a kind of thing that was in his imaginary as a sense of community, as a sense of aggregation of people. So this idea of circus was proposed in his movie, and it was really the social model he was inspired to. There is another question.
Perché? Castronuovo. Allora, ecco, questa è una bella domanda perché... Ciao, grazie. Ecco, allora, intanto Ferruccio Castronuovo...
So Ferruccio Castronuovo has always understood the value of what he had. At the time, this material was valuable because it was sent to TV, was transmitted to TV. TV at 70s was considered Z series. Cinema was the cinema, but TV was really a bad thing. So all these movies that he produced for TV were like ignored. There was like the producer said, okay, you can take them away because they take our space. So if you they were they were big material, so they really took a lot of space. By the time Castronuovo really stored this material, it was like wine, okay, for him. Then he tried to sell this material, but nobody was really interested in that. Then the trend of the vogue of biopics started. In fact, when I started to produce biopics, they were not very widespread, but then slowly everybody started to appreciate biopics, and actually it was something wonderful for me. Ferruccio is not there anymore, unfortunately passed away, so I'm responsible for this material. My company has an archive, and so actually I feel responsible for that. Another question from online questions. Yeah, people there is Silvia who asked if the Fellini's archive is stored in a single place, so in this Cineteca in Rome or in Rimini. Yeah, well, the Fellini's museum is in Rimini. There is the Fellini's Foundation where you have other material. Fellini, you don't have a single archive for Fellini. So you don't have only movies, but also pictures, also other materials. So his assistant director was very nice person, and every time before going back home, he took from Fellini's office, from his rubbish bin, he brought all his material, so the Fellini threw it away. So, for example, he drew something, and so the things that Fellini didn't like, he threw that away. And at the end of the day, he took all this material from this trash bin. I have the archives of Ginger and Friend, Ginger and Fred, 8.5, and the City of Women. So yes, you have something in Rimini, something in Cinecittà, everything that is a little bit widespread.
Ah, ecco. No, l'animazione io l'ho messa, allora c'è da dire, siccome ve l'ho premesso prima.
So as I said before,
di fare un film su Fellini.
at the beginning I didn't want to make a movie on Fellini. I just recorded some interviews because I was sure that Scorsese would have called me. So all those interviews were made by a specific idea of collection, but I wasn't sure to make this movie. So, for example, I started with the topic of all the faces, and then I changed the topic on his fantasy in the aqueduct, for example, with the mice, etc. So there were some linking points that, the animation were a kind of linking points among the different parts of the documentary.
Nel capitolo sul cinema. Ci sono i liceali che devono abbandonarci.
Okay, some students need to go to live.
Grazie. Va bene. Se avete voglia avete altre domande, mi volete contattare, a me
If you have
piacere,
other questions and you want to contact me, of course, I'm really happy. And of course, I can answer your questions. Yes, of course, you can write your my email, info@iframe.it. So you can really drop me an email and you tell me, okay, I'm part of the class, etc., etc. So if you have questions for me, of course, I would be really happy to answer. I make these movies not for me, but for you, so to keep the heritage, the memory, because if I didn't do that, it would have been like, in the film library for other 100 years. So there is another question.
Non ho capito se ti puoi avvicinare.
So you can come closer, please.
Dopo la città delle donne. Critiche? Quali sono le critiche dei film di...
So which are...
Ma guarda, le critiche non l'hanno capito.
So which were the critics for Fellini's movie? Well, The City of Women was really criticized, actually. And everybody expected in the past that he produced another 8.5, another La Dolce Vita, but it changed every time. So critics were not really positive, especially the Voice of the Moon was not very positively accepted. But to really understand is these movies, you really need to watch them from the beginning to the very last movie. So his entire production.
Dopo le 8:30?
After 8:30.
La Dolce Vita?
La Dolce Vita.
Reinventato? Come ha reinventato Fellini dopo che fai la Dolce Vita?
After La Dolce Vita, how could you reinvent yourself? Oh, well, very good question, because film directors can make one masterpiece in their life, and after this masterpiece, and they win an Oscar, everybody expects that they produce another masterpiece. But actually, it is not very common. So, okay, Fellini was an exception because he repeated some masterpieces, and today we don't have a lot of film producers who are who produce masterpieces like Scorsese, for example. He was, but this happened in sculpture, in poetry, in music. So it happens that you can fall down. It's not easy to climb and to stay up all the time. Are there any other questions? Yes. Why music is so important in Fellini's movies? Well, it is important because he really found the sense of the pleasure in everything. He loved music, he loved eating. And there is a legend that said that when Fellini didn't shoot movies, he lived in Cinecittà. So he had a little apartment in the studios of Cinecittà. He had a cooker who cooked for him. So he combined the pictures with music, because music is really important. Because when I edit my movies, I really edit them on the basis of time, and on that pace, on that time, I really change the picture. So music comes along with the visual, with the pictures. And also silence is really important. So silence is fundamental as well. And for example, he had Nico Rota, Piovani, who were very wonderful musicians, composers. So what Piovani said is really true. Yeah, he didn't take any library. Yeah, he was a genius, and that's why his movies were really expensive.
No. Visconti era un altro mondo.
Visconti is really another world. So I have another documentary on Visconti. Fellini was really circus, a mess, noise. Visconti was the opposite, was silence. Visconti's sets were really quiet. Everybody spoke quietly, and Visconti was very serious. So if somebody was wrong, so if you were wrong, you were out. With Fellini, instead, it was really a total circus. So two different schools, we can say. So they were antagonists. They were different also in their modality to make movies. There is a book, if you want to read that, I don't know, by Francesco Piccolo. It should be something like La Beata Illusione, so the blessed illusion. Oh, sorry, the beautiful confusion. I read this book after this movie, And unfortunately, would be good to read that before, because he really talked about this difference between Visconti and Fellini. Because in actually, if you it's like if you touch Zeus and Buddha, so you touch really the highest representatives of the Italian movie. So, and as I'm a very little film director, I realized that it was really risky, but then at the end I decided to do that. Moreover, for the 100th anniversary, a lot of documentaries were produced on Fellini. I need to say that nobody emulated, so no documentary emulated the other documentary. So every documentary on Fellini was really unique. If you think if you imagine to restart with cinema family, which one would be your family today? Well, I would say my family. So as a film director, I want to be my family's boss. No, I'm joking, of course, but well, very good question. Maybe I would be I would like to belong to Sorrentino and Garone's family.
Appunto, ma infatti bisogna sempre rinnovarsi. Certo.
But we need to renovate ourselves.
Nicola Piovani dice che il prossimo felliniano non farà Fellini, non farà
So, and Nicola Piovani also in Fellinopolis says that the next Fellinian one wouldn't do the same things that Fellini did. Oh, sometimes I think what Fellini would have done today, like with the artificial intelligence, maybe he would be a blogger. It would be very curious to see him alive today. There was a movie that they produced with the artificial intelligence that is called, is about Fellini again. I don't remember exactly the name. Well, it is something like Fellini recovering. So artificial intelligence tried to make a kind of Fellinian movie, but no, it didn't. It wasn't successful, actually. So I'm not sure. Maybe yes, he would. Today, Fellini would use artificial intelligence. Why not?
Sì, ma ora che ci penso anche no, forse. Sai perché?
Well, I would say actually, now that I think to that, maybe no, it wouldn't use the artificial intelligence because he's really wanted to build the things from the scratch. So if you could you imagine to have Fellini who produces a movie with only a screen in front of him? Well, it's really impossible. He wanted to be surrounded by the circus, by all his inhabitants, all his people. So we can conclude with two things that we read on the chat. So Silvia is the linking point between Visconti and Fellini. And another participant said that actually some of the participants read Piccolo's book and actually was marvelous to watch movie after having read Piccolo's book. So, but I would really suggest you to watch also my movie on Visconti. If you send me an email, I will send you a link where you can see that. So just to conclude, I will really thank you all the participants, and I'm sorry for all the questions I didn't answer, but please do not hesitate to send me an email, because I will be happy to answer your email, to your questions and your emails. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.